Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Human SOS show. We appreciate you being here with us today, and I am relieved to see my partner here. We were concerned he was going to be a little late, but he, by God's grace, got here on time and in one piece, so I appreciate it. And we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics today. So, Anton, you want to open us up and get us rolling?
Yeah, thanks. I interested in getting here. I've luckily made it almost on time, and thanks so much for waiting for those that jumped on. But before we get started, always let us know where you're joining from. It's one of our favorite parts to see where folks are joining from. Type in your country, your state, whatever the city you're in, doesn't matter. So we can give you a shout out. But everything we do at Human SOS, right? The Human SOS is a system that we use at Prospective Force, and it stands for Human Sustainability Organizational System, that is designed to help companies really find competitive advantage by treating their people better, by working with their people better. It's not just the soft side, it's all of it, and really finding a way to maximize their talent. That's really what it's all about. But we want to create sustainable ecosystems. That's what we look at in an organization. We look at it as this contained ecosystem, and there's many components to it. And in order to truly optimize this ecosystem, we have to look at the big picture and then work our way down to the root, right? We got to do it that way. So one of the biggest things that we start with is a vision, and making sure that there is a vision for organization, but also there is a vision for an individual. And if possible, should always be possible, at least to some degree, there should be a crossover between the two. And if that can happen, you're going to have sticky, engaged, highly productive employees.
Welcome to Mary and Barbara joining us. Mary from Florida and Barbara here in Georgia, practically a neighbor. Welcome. Glad to have you. Remember to share comments as we go along because your engagement in this is important to us and the value of what goes on here.
Yeah, and as we get started, as always, first we'll look at the agenda, and we're going to discuss our HR news article of the week first. Then we'll talk about different components. We skip back so I remember what the components are. Yeah. We'll talk about the vision components, and we'll talk about how to set your vision, kind of the process of going around it. We'll discuss some common mistakes that people have with their visions, and then just navigating your vision, right? It's one thing to set it, it's one thing to have it, but then how do I navigate life that's ultimately going to get me there, right? So let's get into the HR news of the week.
Welcome to Tim. Tim's been a guest on our show, so glad to have you, Tim. Thanks for jumping on board with us.
What's going on? All right, so the HR article, what I wanted to, it was written just yesterday by Mr. Benjamin over there, Schneider. Give him a shout out. There's the link for it if you guys want to look it up. But it talks about 10 practices that are currently happening to basically create HR success in the company. And these are super high level, but I just wanted to see what people are talking about and not go super deep into them. But practice number 1, professionally develop tests of employee ability. Personality and interests are valid for the prediction of newcomer job performance, absenteeism, and turnover, right? So this is something that's become pretty popular in HR circles, doing these assessments, whether, like a competency assessment that's specific to a skill. It could be personality. It could be aptitude, like, general math knowledge, or, those kind of abilities, cognitive abilities. But there's some, things that you have to be cautious if you're using them, especially on the HR side. Make sure that those assessments are validated, right? There's a lot of assessments out there and they're not validated. And that gives you nothing. It just gives you a bunch of answers that you don't know are actually accurate. They're just answers. The second part is make sure that assessment is validated for bias. That's another aspect that some assessments are lacking. And what I'm talking about there is there's certain protected classes that may be in a disadvantage in certain assessments. So you have to make sure that the assessment that you're using is not going to be biased towards a protected class, or you're going to get in some really, really hot water, with rules and regulations and things like that. Anything on that one, Kev?
Yeah, a couple of things. One, I've got to put a plug in. We have an stress assessment that's available, and especially for once you have hired your folks, and that leads me to the second comment. You're in evaluating use of these assessments. Remember that how you do that in the hiring process versus how you do that in personal development is different. Yes, when you're looking at hiring, you have to be real cautious and definitely, consider that it is a equitable assessment across differing groups of people, so that it is doesn't have a bias in hiring. When you get people in, consider using a variety to hit all different areas because that's important. And the other comment, and this is something I encountered probably 2 years ago with an organization called Jobtimize, and there is a lot of evidence that identifying some of these components, behavioral components especially, are a better predictor of the employee success in a given job than even skills and education and interest in those things. So use this well.
Absolutely. The second point that we have there is positive onboarding is good for the company and for new hires at all levels. And guys, these things are common sense, right? But do you think that this is actually the case in most companies? It's not. And with onboarding, here's the thing about onboarding that we preach at Prospective Force that's really important to the employee life cycle. There's 4 different types of onboarding, and there may be others, but this is kind of what we preach, right? You have your technical onboarding, which is, do I know how to push the right button, where I need to, look at, find something, those kind of things. You have your administrative onboarding, which is, do I know where all the, all my W-4s, my I-9s, my benefits set up, all those kind of things. Have I completed all my safety training, my HR processes, those kind of things, right? And those are the 2 that are most done all the time. But there's 2 that are missing frequently. And those 2 are cultural and social. And I split those up because I don't think that social onboarding is the same as cultural onboarding. Cultural onboarding is onboarding with mission, vision, values, right? How we operate, how we look at things, how we treat our client, how we work with our stakeholders, all that kind of stuff. Social onboarding is acclimating people to the environment and the people that are around them and creating opportunities for them to connect. You as a leader need to do that. You don't just throw them out there and say, okay, go get to know everybody, or you pull them in a meeting and say, well, it's a Wednesday meeting, 1 p.m. Now tell us your story. Tell us 1 truth and 2 lies and let us figure it out, or whatever, whatever the thing is. It's cool to do that, but those are just surface level social interactions. Get involved with your people as you're onboarding them and truly engage in conversations with others to make them comfortable doing that. I'm an introvert. If I have a hard time introducing myself to people, so I do way better when somebody introduces me. And once I'm there, I can actually maintain that relationship pretty well, but I struggle with that. So consider those 4 onboardings when you're trying to onboard.
Definitely. And welcome, Leonardo. Glad to have you. If you would, let us know where you're joining from. Tim was joining from New York. I forgot to mention that a minute ago. The simplest thing is just do it, as far as practice too. Like you said, so much of the current onboarding processes are as dehumanized as it is possible to dehumanize those things. Sit down, watch a video, sign all the right papers, get your logins and stuff, and by the way, go and be happy.
Yep.
And that's unfortunate, and something that we addressed at our last conference that we had, our summit. And I think it's a piece that is sorely missing.
Similarly to how, people don't invest enough into stress, even though they know that it's a big problem. They just don't connect the symptoms to the root issue of stress. Well, a lot of these symptoms that your company is experiencing with your people are connected due to the way they started their first 90 days. And they could be 3-4 years into the company, but they're still carrying some stuff from those first 90 days. It's really tough to overcome that first impression. So just be careful and understand that there is a lot more issues and symptoms that are connected to poor onboarding.
Including turnover.
Yep. Oh, 100%. Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Practice number 3 that they talked about: engagement has significant impact on employee performance and attendance, as well as financial performance. And this really talks about leadership engagement. Really, it's speaking to how engaged the leaders are with their front line, with their downline, whatever level of organization you're in. And it's not just engaged as in their performance. It's engaged in showing care, really, really, truly caring about them in all facets of their life, not just their work. Hit the next one. All right. Practice number 4, fair and just HR practices, specifically performance management and equitable compensation, serve as a foundation for trust that allows employees to feel psychologically supported, trusted, and engaged. Guys, unfairness just makes your people shut down, right? And a lot of people will not voice it. That's the thing, is like, you think that everybody's just going to talk about unfair HR practices, or, if there's some poor performance management going on, where there's lack of compensation. The compensation one, you'll probably hear the most. The other ones, you won't as much, but they'll still hurt you a lot. So make sure that you're treating your people fairly. And I don't mean that equally. That's something that me and Kev drive home very often.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody needs to be treated the same. And be careful there, because you can cause a problem that way too, right? So imagine everybody's being treated the same. One person's performing awful. They're bad egg per se. And then another person is doing amazing, but they're seeing the same, same reward, same everything as the other person. Do you think that person is going to be motivated? No, it's going to demotivate them and pull them down to the level of the underperformer. It's not going to raise the underperformer to the level of the performer. So be careful with trying to treat everybody the same.
Well, and I know we get into some HR things here with this. That reminder that this is not to single people out in a bad way. It is to individualize in a good way, but it's with the intent of opportunity to grow and move forward positively for everybody. So we're not talking about picking favorites or anything like that. Please don't go there on this one.
For sure. Then the next one, we're talking about know your employees' psychological contracts and make sure they know yours. And psychological contracts are these unwritten rules, is what they're talking about. It's these things that happen that don't necessarily have a written rule, but I expect you to treat me as a human being. Like that doesn't need to be written on a piece of paper and signed. That should be table stakes, but that's not always what happens, right? And I mean that in every aspect of operations, from recruiting to onboarding to you name it. A lot of times those psychological contracts are broken. On the other hand, make sure that the employee understands some of the unwritten rules of your organization, right? What are some of these psychological contracts that you have as understandings that you think don't necessarily need to be said, but they're assumed? Don't assume they know them. Discuss them, talk about them, and make sure they're aware before they even started. Maybe in the interview, you discuss some of these psychological contracts and you let them know the lay of the land a little bit before they jump on the ship.
Love the term psychological contract rather than unwritten rules, because these unwritten rules do have similar effects of a binding contract. Really does. People will really be affected by how these are handled, no doubt.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. I enjoyed that term too. Sixth one out of 10, offering options and flexibility to employees is good for everyone, as documented by how well these worked during the pandemic. Don't stop. You have to understand there's an expectation that's been created. They did the studies and they realized that this engagement and productivity didn't really drop at the rate that everybody expected it to drop. Some people actually saw an increase. So now this thing that prevented companies from going and being very flexible with schedules is out of the way. So now we can't say that that's what's keeping us from doing it. If we're not doing it now, we're just not listening to the needs of our people. And I don't mean it's about being fully remote. It's about understanding what is the need of the job and where can I find wiggle room to give these people as much as I can. And then explain in areas very clearly and make them understand why you can't in certain areas. That's really what people want. They want to see that you're giving them as much freedom and flexibility as you can, but they also understand it's a business and a company has to be ran. It's all about communication.
This one is a good symptom indicator of manage people versus lead people. If you're locked into everybody's got to fit in this one box, then you got a challenge from a conceptual concept of managing versus leading. Yep.
Then the next one is talking about carefully develop and deploy employee surveys with follow-up are valuable as an input into future decision-making in regards to human issues and company strategy. So survey your folks. Really, that's what it's getting into, is just survey your people, figure out what their needs are, what they want. This is not an uncommon one. But also, I'm a huge fan of 360s. I'm a huge fan of doing verbal 360s, preferably if you have a coach. If somebody can do the assessment and actually sit down with these people and have a 20-minute conversation with, say, 8 of your reports and maybe some upline, downline, whatever lateral positions, and get truly feedback on you as a leader, and then sit down and provide you that feedback in a very organized manner. That in my opinion is the best one. Second best is an electronic version of a 360 assessment where, these people get sent a questionnaire, they fill it out. But once again, as a coach, I know I can pull a lot more information out of people and also understand the bigger picture, not just how they answer a specific question. But if you don't have a coach available that can do a 360 for you, then go the route of doing a virtual one, and there's plenty of them available.
And don't just check box this one. Once you do the survey, listen to what's said and follow up. I hear more people complain about companies, leaders, managers that ask all these questions and then promptly file it away and it's never heard from again. So you need to do this. If you're going to do it, follow up.
Yeah, and connect the surveys, right? Don't jump out of one into the next one and forget about the previous one. See how you progress, see where the growth occurred. Ask your leader as a leader to help you grow in those areas. Or if you don't have that ability, go to your HR team and say, I need a coach. Like, do that. Say, hey, these guys at Prospective Force can really help me out, and I would love to work with them. And have your HR team reach out to us. We'll sit down and have a conversation and let them know how we can help you. Let's get into the next one. Principle number 8 here.
One other comment, Anton. I teach leaders all the time. One of the things I teach them is if you're a leader, you're a teacher. A good teacher practice is connecting objectives to outcomes. In this practice number 7, that's important. Okay, we're going to do this because in our recent feedback survey, we got this information. Tie it together. Don't assume that they know this.
Yep, absolutely. Number 8 of 10, HR should partner with departments across the organization to be the most relevant. This is where, this new role that was recently came out, HR business partner. It's actually something I'm interested in potentially pursuing eventually. And it's a way that HR is not that this oversight. They're like specialists within HR department that work with specific sectors of the organization. And they're the liaison between the needs of that part of the organization and the HR team. And it's very integrated. And I love that role. I think it's a long time coming. I think it's going to continue to evolve and continue to be a lot more people-centric versus just filling positions, which is kind of the primary role right now. But I think it'll become much more heavier in a development side of things and really understanding, how to create, 3-5 year development plans for these teams to really prepare them for the future.
You mean there's supposed to be human consideration in HR?
Yeah, human-centered design, absolutely. Then number 9, promote inclusion as well as diversity because it's the right thing to do and it pays off financially. And I like how they said it's the right thing to do, but it also pays off financially. It really is that dual prong. One side of it is you just need to do that because it's being a human. It's called do the right thing, and don't ever let people feel less than you because of you. Right? That is a very simple way I would say. Don't ever let people feel less than you because of you. But the other part of it is if you do this right, it pays you. It just like stress management, in which diversity and inclusion, working on that, it's part of stress management for an organization. But if you spend that money, it's not a cost. It's an investment. It pays you money back, triple, 4 times, 5 times, 10x your investment, depends on how well you do it. And in this area, it's going to really also prevent you from losing money. That's the other side. You don't see how much money is being lost in an organization when they're not operating in diverse and inclusive ways.
Yeah. And one thing that I'll just kind of throw it out there. Some of our generations, like mine, when we start talking diversity and inclusion, have a tunnel vision on this. Folks, this is not just about cultures or ethnicity. This is about age. It's about talents. It's about a lot of things. And if you really want to have an effective movement, and some of the greatest movements that have ever occurred in history have been done by having a diverse group. And we don't have time for me to follow on to that, but just trust me, please, that It's not just about ethnicity and culture. It's much broader than that, and the value of this is remarkable.
Absolutely. And then the last one, CEOs and senior leaders have a powerful impact on the climate and culture of company, but what they do and how they go about doing it. You set the culture. You set the culture, but not what you talk about. You set the culture, but where you put your foot down, but where you draw a line in the sand and say, we will not break these things. We will always do these things, whatever it is that you talk about that sets your culture, right? When the company's in the corner and the team is watching what you're going to do, that is one of the best times to create culture and show that no matter what spot we're in, we are not going to break against our values, our vision, our mission, even if it makes sense for short-term financial gain. And when that happens, you're going to see your team members run through walls for you because they realize that it's not just about the money. Money's important. Finances are important, but other things are way more important.
Yeah, excuse me. This is the importance of values, because our values are our determinant on where our culture is going to be. And those are the must-haves, the essentials, and how those are set make a big determination of the success going forward, without a doubt.
All right, so let's get into the talk about vision. Guys, if you're just joining, we're talking about vision today. It's one of the things that we focus on with Prospective Force and the Human SOS, Human Sustainability Organizational System that helps to create humanly sustainable ecosystems within the workplace. So why is the vision so vital, Kev? Tell me some things that, happen that are positive from having a good vision, or maybe some negative things that happen from lack of vision.
Well, it's interesting. I've observed both sides. And let me start with what I have observed with the absence of vision. One is, especially if you have an organization and you've got some strong people that are, your go-getters, these people that everybody dreams of having, but you do not have a clear vision in a group like that, it's going to ensue with two things: chaos and conflict. You can write that one down, and I'll even say you can guarantee it. And even without those strong personalities, it still creates confusion and conflict as well, because part of what people need to know is, where are we going? Why are we doing this? And even my generation, we were led, or managed, should I say, by because I said so. But even during my generation and our approach to things, we still would celebrate leadership. And vision has to be the beginning part. It's not the end part. It's the beginning part of leading. If you don't have a vision, you're going to always end up pushed back into managing people. And that's not a place you want to be.
Love it. Now, and I want to ask the audience. A lot of our audience are experienced, leaders and HR professionals, or just human beings, right? And I want to know why a vision is so vital. What, in your opinion, why is it so important, both from an individual standpoint and also from a team and company standpoint? Why is it so important to set it? For me, I look at it as, I've heard you say it's the North Star, right? And it really, this concept makes sense to me when I've been through jungle survival training, right? When you're in a jungle, you're surrounded by vegetation, very thick, very dense. You can't really see where you're going all the time, and it really looks the same. So you need something above the tree line that's navigating you there when you can see it, right? And you have to poke your head up above the tree line once in a while and see, okay, how am I doing in that destination? And when it connects to stress management, what that does is it creates efficiency, right? There's so much times that companies trying to get from A to B, nothing is ever a straight line. But instead of having a small little wave back and forth, they're doing zigzags, circles, backwards, roundabouts, because there's a lack of vision. They don't have that above tree line focus point that's constantly shooting them in that direction, constantly navigating them through the noise of everyday operations. That's the reality. There's a lot of noise in everyday operations. And as a leader, if you can't paint this destination that's really clear, you're going to have issues. The other side of it, and like I said, that's inefficiency. So I want to see what you guys think. Why is the vision so vital? Type that in the comments, please. Then the other aspect of it is where if we don't have a vision, we are going to miss the emotional component of leadership. And this is something that I often do. But luckily, I've been taught by Kevin and many other great teachers of how to set this vision for people and for the team. But it basically, human beings, they don't just respond to logic. We can't just say, here's 2 + 2 = 4. This is why we got to do 4. 4 has a story. 4 has, other things attached to it. And our vision really helps to build the story behind what we do every single day. So don't lose out on that emotional component and get your people's buy-in by having a strong vision.
Well, and another thing about the vital need of vision is our anchor when things get rocky. One of the things that has made this current pandemic and our reaction to it such a mess and caused so much confusion and fear is that there has been a complete lack of vision in regards to this at all levels. And what happens is a clear vision that is shared, by the way, key point, has to be shared, but a shared vision is where you anchor in when you don't know for sure what's happening in the immediate future, but your long-term future is always pointed towards your vision. So it becomes our anchor when the storms hit.
Absolutely. It's interesting. Like I look at presidential elections or any sort of election for that matter when I see a politician run on their platform. And I see a lot of missions on there, but I don't really see clear-cut visions from any of them. And I think that's a problem. I think that I was just thinking about this. I don't know why it came to my mind, but I think as politicians need to build visions, and they need to show them to people. And ultimately, that's the thing that we should be buying into, not just a bunch of missions that people know we want to hear, right? It's kind of like this, like a mission to me that a politician writes out. They go to a job description, they grab all the keywords, and then they say, this is what I'm going to go accomplish. That's truly what I think is how these things are written the same way. They go out there, see what people want to see happen. What are people talking about it? And I'm going to position myself in a way that's going to seem like I'm going to accomplish those things. They never do them. They don't accomplish them. I'd rather them say, here's the vision I have for the world. Here's the vision I have for the state. Here's the vision I have for the city. It's beyond me. It's not just what I'm going to accomplish today. It's not going to accomplish with this term. It's what we as a people need to be doing. And if we are aligned to that vision and what that person says, that's what we should be electing. I don't know. That's just my belief.
Well, and you and I share military, and so anyone in the military will appreciate this. Before you have a mission of any kind, you always have an operational order. And one of the key components in operational order is a part called commander's intent. What the value of commander's intent is, if it's not specifically spelled out in your operations order telling you all the moving pieces and parts, you go back to commander's intent and say, where are we going with this mission? And commander's intent tells us that, okay, in the absence of specific direction, consider this and make a decision. That's what our vision is for us and for our organization, is our commander's intent. And you just don't take on a mission without having commander's intent. If you do, your people get hurt, things go wrong, and you create problems. So vision, I guess at this point, if people are picking up, vision's pretty vital.
Let's hit the next one. So as far as a vision goes, like what are some of these principles of a vision? Go back one. So what are these principles of a vision? And I don't have, they're not necessarily a defined list. I just want to see what are the principles, components, what are these parts? How do we, what constitutes a vision, Kev?
Well, it's interesting. I have, up until a few years ago, when I was blessed to receive some great strategic planning training, I always struggled with what was the difference between vision and mission. Okay, and it's evident that I'm not the only one that struggles, because if you look out at organizational visions, missions, and then even talk to people, A lot of people are confused over it. So one of the principles that I see in vision is that it has to be bigger than we are. If I can do whatever my vision is by myself, it's a goal. Okay. The other thing is that if it has to be something that appears like a goal, but in reality, if it is at the appropriate level to be our North Star, then it will not be attainable. Technically, it will be measurable because it's got to be big enough. And I guess if you had the data, you could potentially quantify it, but that's not the concern. It is something that is big. And the way it helped me to really understand this was, if I achieve my mission, okay, if I accomplish what I want to accomplish, what will my world and the world look like? How will it be different? What will have changed if I step back and look, and can I see the evidence of what I have been trying to do? That's our vision. And that has to be ultimately even looked at over your lifetime. And it has to be big, because part of the value of it being big is that there's room for other people to come along and share it with you. And very few people, even solopreneurs, can do what they do and do it alone. It just is not practical. And in an organization, when you've got hundreds and thousands of employees, it's very evident that you can't do it alone. So what does it look like when you get there? So you're muted there, brother.
I love what you said with if I can do something myself, it's a goal, it's not a vision. That's brilliant. I've never heard that said that before, and I really like that. And I've heard concepts of 100-year, 300-year visions, and I really like that approach where you think about it as more than a lifetime, right? This is something that would take more than a lifetime, means that I just can't do it myself. But it also means that I have to plan beyond myself. I have to plan beyond my involvement. I have to create disciples. I have to create other people that are going to continue spreading this vision, but beyond my existence or beyond my involvement, whichever one, comes first potentially. So I agree with all those principles. I think that visions are kind of an intersection of your passion, your desire, and your skills. And you have to sit down and think, what is it that I love? What is it that I really care about? What can I do? And you may not have those skills yet. Like, I'm just saying, this may be something that you need to acquire, you need to develop. As an example, like, I went and I'm graduating with my MBA in 6 weeks. Why did I go get an MBA? It's nothing to do with my work. It has more to do with my vision of creating a humanly sustainable world. But I know that in order to truly get into organizations and impact C-level executives, I need credibility. I need to have something that's higher level education for people to trust me. And I'm not just some meditation coach and a yoga teacher with a stigma that, just woo-woo all the time, right? So I went and got that, and to add to my skills. So you have to think about, how do I compound that? But also desire. This is something that people sometimes don't focus enough on. And they say, okay, well, I'm passionate kind of about this topic. I have skills in there, so I'm going to build a vision on that. But I'm like, but do you actually want to do that all the time and every day? And is that something that gets you up in the morning? You're like, yes, I get to do this. And if not, this is a really complicated world with a lot of different avenues. Find one that does. You can find many things that you're passionate about and have skills in that you will like more than others, right? So I would say that's the intersection of those three.
Yeah, I like that. Of course, the terminology I use is and teach from is that to develop your vision, you've got to understand your design, okay, how you're made, how you're created, your passion, what is that emotional component that just drives you beyond your limits, and in your purpose. Why am I doing this? And you've got to start with those three things in perspective to build a vision, because if you don't, your vision's going to be small. and it's going to be short-sighted. And it may be that you're trying to build a vision based on somebody else, not yourself. So yeah, you've got to have that foundation to develop your vision effectively.
Yeah, we got to be. It made me think about what you're talking. We got to be asking something that's beyond our current capability, and that comes back to something I can do. But just the way that our brain works, it motivates us to be more focused. When we're asking something that's slightly, not too much, but slightly outside of our capability, we get better. We get into the state of flow. So that's a good one. Let's get into the next slide, Kev.
Anton, I'm sorry you prompted me on another one, but you mentioned focus. Okay, when we as a leader struggle, and if you haven't, you're doing something wrong. Okay. And so what you do is as you're struggling and you're reevaluating and thinking, what's going on here? Am I where I need to be? This is where your vision is such a vital element for you as a leader. And it's also good for your team. That's where you step back and you look and you say, are we still, or what we are doing, is it still moving towards our vision? If it's not, at that point you go, maybe this doesn't need to be. It's not a sure thing, but it's certainly a way to begin to reevaluate and reprioritize, because if it's especially if it's going the opposite direction, then that is a distraction. That's taken away from your focus. So your vision is your big, if you will, focus.
Yeah, and it's like you said, you're just exactly the visualizing as you're talking. I'm like, you're talking about jungle warfare, climbing up a tree, getting your head above ground. That's the focus, right? Are we still on that target, or do we steer in the wrong way because of the noise of everyday operations? Right. Let's hit the next one. So here we're talking about personal versus team vision. What is some of the differences and how people should look at the difference between personal and team vision, Kev?
Well, one of the things I get asked all the time when I ask people about their vision, they ask me personal versus business or personal versus team. You can't have any vision without personal. Okay. And there can be subcomponents, and I would even suggest that some of these subcomponents are more about mission. And your ultimate, if you're the leader of a team and you're aligned with the company vision, then your vision in that alignment provides vision for your team, and that's also point of alignment. The nice thing about vision is that it has so many different ways to approach it, so many different options for who's involved, and so when you start segregating visions as such, it makes me a little nervous, because I think we're getting into mission versus vision, to me, your team vision should be a shared vision based on yours as a leader, the company's, and then the individual members. How do those come together? That is where you get personal versus team vision, where those collide or coincide or become congruent. I think that's a real key element there.
Yeah, so, and I agree. I think that one has to be part of the other. And that's really the point I was trying to get at here is, how do you connect them? How do you get a person, what they're trying to accomplish with their life, to see that portion of that is going to be accomplished through the vision of the team or the company? When those connections happen, we're just opening up people's potential. We're opening up people's desire to do more, but we're also helping them to persevere. A lot of times when we lose team members, and this to me is one of the greatest underutilized retention tools in leadership today, is connecting personal vision to team vision. Because when things go bad, and they will, and they do, that's just part of business. It's very easy to leave. It's very easy to jump ship. It's very easy to find a company that'll pay as much, shift that will fit your schedules, whatever. Those things are simple. What's not simple is finding a company that you connect to on that personal level that makes sense for not just financials, but makes sense to your soul, makes sense to your being, right? And that overall, And people will stick around through a lot of the bad times that are usually temporary. And they will persevere through that to come out on top and get stronger. But a lot of times what happens with companies is this time comes up and people drop off because they didn't persevere. And that puts a company into just a tailspin. And it creates a really bad pattern for a long, long time that it may or may not ever come out of. And I've seen this happen more times than I can count. But I'm telling you, when those visions align, when your people feel like what they're trying to accomplish personally, part of that or all of it is happening with your company, you got some super sticky, super engaged, super productive evangelists. Right. And I'm going to use that word specifically because they become that. They become people that praise your company off the rooftops. They're finding new employees to come join the team. They're getting recommendations to better vendors, stakeholders, whatever it may be. But we don't do enough of this crossover. We just spend the time on let's build this beautiful vision for the company. It's emotionally charged. Everybody kind of had an input in it. Not enough, because the crossover happens in one-on-one conversations. You can't make a crossover in a group conversation like that.
Symptom of this being a problem: lack of motivation, lack of initiative. I hear this all the time. When I do a leadership training, one of the first things I do with the group is we do a mind mapping exercise, brainstorming on what are the challenges faced as a leader. And just about with 100% consistency, motivation and initiative are always an issue. And the reason that we don't have motivation and initiative is because we've got people doing things that are not important to them short of a paycheck or a job. And that's where this is so critical. If we've got them, first of all, if they've got a vision, whether they can not always express it, that's a whole nother topic. But if they've got a vision, which means that this is something they have a passion about, they feel like it's part of who they are, and it will serve their purpose. Well, if they've got that lined up with what you're asking them to be a part of and to do, your bigger challenge is going to be to stay out of their way, because they're driven by their own vision. Now, will it always be perfectly aligned? Not at all. If it is, their vision's too small too. Okay. But there should be an intersection. I need to do a graphic on this sometime, Anton, to talk about how that intersection occurs. But
I like your graphics. Let's do it. Hit the next one.
Yeah, this is so critical.
So how to set the vision, Kev? How do we go about setting the vision, right? I mean, I'm being a little kidding here. We've got a little vision board here. This is the silly exercise that maybe starts this. I wouldn't say this is a vision. This could be a brainstorming session or whatever. But how do you go about helping people set a vision?
Well, to use current buzzwords, got to start with self-awareness. Okay. And one thing, I'm going to put in a plug here. I'm going to be opening a course up very soon on finding your potential. And I will tell you that part of what we're going to be talking about is going to involve vision and how to get there. But start with understanding design, passion, and purpose for yourself. You can use different words. The words aren't important. The concepts and principles are. But start there. And once you begin to do that, then you can begin to get out of your head and into a way that you can express it. And just very pragmatically, if you're trying to understand and clarify, learn to express your vision, you need somebody, a family member, a friend, a coach, a mentor, or somebody that can walk through some of this with you, because you can't just come up with this and put it down and boom, it's all good, if nothing else, because part of setting your vision is being able to express it. Because if you can't express it, you can't find people that want to join up with you to follow your vision. So setting a vision is internal first. What am I about? Who am I? All of those things. And one caveat, don't just say because I feel passionate about it that that's my vision. Passions can come and go. Emotions will come and go depending on circumstances. It's a part, but it has to be in context. So figure yourself out. What's in your head? What is just driving you and what should be driving you? Then once you do that, try to figure out how to express it. How can I tell someone what my vision is? I know people that have visions all up in their head, and I'm sure it's amazing in their head, but they can't get it out to someone else. So learning how to express it, and most times you need to be able to express your vision in a short, succinct fashion, at least initially. If you can't do that, you're missing one of the values. I love the initial graphic you had on this slide deck today, Anton, about casting. The concept is casting your vision, which casting as in like fishing. And any of you out there that are like fishing, you know that you cast your lure, your attraction out and see if a fish will be attracted to it and bite on it. And that's part of the value of your vision. So learning how to express that vision is so key. Again, a lot of people have something in their head, but they can't get it out. And as a result, they end up not being able to attract people around them to help go in that direction that are well suited for that. And that's where we get wrong people in wrong places doing wrong things. Not that they are wrong morally or ethically or legally, they just don't fit in where you're going and what you want to accomplish along the way.
Excuse me. This can be a great team building exercise, right? Bring Kev in. He teaches the principles of how to go about doing it. Then you release the people into the wild. You go let them create their visions and build their visions and then report back out. And I'm telling you, like, if people spend time doing this and then they come back and report out this concise, deliverable packaged vision, you all are going to learn a whole lot about each other. And you're going to see parallels between each other where, like, oh, we actually have quite a bit of alignment there. How can we grow together? How can we support each other? But to me, you know, I like how you started with awareness. And my process is somewhat similar. I use the concept of life design to help create a vision. And Simon Sinek said long ago, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Your vision is why you do what you do. That's the most foundational thing there is. And to convince anybody of anything, that's the route. It's funny you said casting, but you're casting it out to see who connects with you, who connects with that way of living, who connects with that way of thinking. And those people will flock to you once they know what you mean. That part is really important. I like how Kevin said, you have to be able to convey that vision. You can have it all there. You can say a bunch of words, but they don't actually connect to what you mean. It's irrelevant. So it has to be simple enough for, you know, an 8th grader to understand, shoot, a 5th grader to understand, really. But what I say is go and spend a day with yourself. I'm a huge fan of solitude. I'm a huge fan of, you know, go disappear for 8 hours in nature. And I'm talking about spend full 8 hours, maybe even longer on this. And just define who you are. Define all the components that make me. Right? I'm a father. I'm a learner. I'm a person that likes to have fun. I'm a person that wants to leave a deep impact on the world. You know, there's a few others. And then define what does each one of those look like? And then say, why do you care about those? What are some of the most centralized whys there present across all of those? And see how you can unify those in a statement that becomes your vision. That's kind of the route that I take.
Well, and I have worked a long time on refining how to express my vision, and it has gotten pretty simple. My vision that drives any and everything I do is that I want to see everyone in the world reach their potential. That's my vision. Okay. And everything that I do now, most everything, is not perfectly so, but in some way or another is connected to how I go about helping people find their potential. What we do at Prospective Force is a component for me of how people can find their potential, how organizations can find their potential. And that's what drives what I do. And beginning to truly understand that for yourself is key. And once you do that, then establishing mission is a whole different process based on your vision. And and when you start doing it and you start bringing it together, why I get so passionate about vision is it helps other things line up. One of the things that I've come to really appreciate, and I learned from Gary Fry, who's on LinkedIn. I went to a conference at his location, and they made a statement, and boy, this just so resonated with me, that we don't have time management problems, we have priority management problems. Because where our conflict comes in is we are doing things that aren't truly a part of our priority. And one of those is work. We have a lot of people that are not working at what they are about. It is sometimes, and this is necessary, especially for seasons, we may have to do something work-wise that is temporary to help us get to a point. But long-term, you're not going to last. That's why we see these people that get in these jobs, including professional positions, and they're in it 5, 10, even 20 years, and they come to a point and they go, "Oh my, what am I doing? This is just eating me up. I'm stressed over it." We talk about legacy, and our desire and hope is to be able to keep you from getting 5, 10, 20 years down the road and be one of those people going, "Oh my, I have wasted a lot of my time." And maybe not, can't live in the past, learn from the past, move on. But the sooner you can begin to work and get your vision in front of you and then do things that line up, boy, the power of it is remarkable. And then as you get people to join in that vision, then your stress level goes down, because you're not, as I like to tell leaders, you can either lead and pull the noodle up the hill, or you can frustrate yourself to no end trying to push a noodle up the hill. And it's the same way with people. If you're always trying to push them along rather than leading them along, you're going to be stressed and frustrated, and they are too.
Thanks for sharing your vision, man. It's interesting, and just for the audience, I'll share mine. But the point here is that they're not always, it's not this clear cut like rule book that tells you these are the things that make a vision, these are the things that make a mission. You need to understand macro level components, and then they need to be really consistent within you, right? Where Kev's vision is kind of like my mission. And it can be that way. So like my vision, ever since my dad passed away, my vision has been to create a humanly sustainable world where people are not overutilized like a resource and are actually in balance, right? That's what that means to me. And that's a huge one. But for me, mission specifically, which is funny, it connects to Kevin's a lot, is to help 10 million people to realize their potential by impacting their mind, body, and spirit. And that is connecting from that. In order for me to create a humanly sustainable world, I can be broad about it, but I chose to say, I'm going to do it through individual lives. I'm going to do it through individual people. And by helping 10 million people, they will be able to help a few others, and through a ripple effect that can actually impact the world. And the point that I'm making here, this is, if you get to know the people around you and you truly understand their vision and missions, you're going to see that you attract a lot of similar individuals. Like there's a lot of similarity between people. We want similar things, we desire similar things, but also some of that comes from who we're around. Some of our vision and mission comes from the people that surround us, what they share, what they say. So be careful, be careful the people you surround yourself with.
Well, and just to help, we're talking about congruence. For me, one of the elements of not being able to find, or one of the obstacles to reaching your potential, is unmanaged stress, and it will destroy you. I'm sorry, it will. And I've watched Anton, and it's really interesting because Anton, if I summed it up, if he could wipe out unmanaged stress tomorrow, he would be a happy man. And it drives what he does. And because he is going through that, and that drives him, you can see him becoming one of, and I'm going to have to brag on you here, brother, that when somebody talks about health and related to health, I, without any hesitation, say, okay, if you want someone to help you in the area of health, coaching, Anton's your guy, because his passion to understand and help wipe out unmanaged, not wipe out stress, wipe out unmanaged stress, has caused him, he has so much knowledge, understanding, wisdom in the area of health. Every time I hear him talk, I go, wow. And it's really
I feel the same way about you in leadership, and that's what makes Prospective Force so cool, guys. I mean, we try to stay in our lane, right? And instead of being jack of all trades and trying to fix every problem that's in existence, we see what our strengths is. We see where we are the best, and we realize that we really only get one shot. We get one session to get it right for whatever the topic we're having. We may not get another session after that. So it's not just about us, but the person that's getting that session needs to get the most for, not just the most bang for their buck, but the most bang for their time, the most bang for their time investment in the future, the most bang for their emotional opening up, whatever that thing is. And instead of plugging a jack of all trades into the equation, why not select the person that is best in the area that they need? And that's kind of what we want to be. We want to be the general contractors of the, the coaching world that specializes in this. And instead of trying to be the roofers, we can get a roofer. We just have to oversee that the roof is being done and it's part of the plan of the greater scheme of the house. But we don't need to be the one that puts that roof down. And that's, in a roundabout way, Kevin, I appreciate it. But like, that's what excites me about this company. We're young, we're new, but I do think that foundationally, there's some things here that are going to make us skyrocket once we get some capital rolling.
Well, and welcome, Rafia. Glad to have Rafia from Canada. She has joined us before. Rafia is a friend on LinkedIn. And one, we talk about diversity and inclusion. Prospective Force is a poster child for this. Okay, here I am. To put it bluntly, I'm an old guy. I represent the one extreme of the generational perspective. Anton is, and his behaviors are not always don't fit the mold, but Anton's a millennial. Okay, Anton's a millennial. In most companies, you put two people, a boomer and a millennial, together, and they don't have shared vision, you've got conflict. You can write that one down and you quote me on it. It is so true. But once you have shared vision, and this is something that Anton and I have been able to gather around now for about 3 years, and is that shared vision. And part of it for us is also a component, a spiritual component. We share a spiritual foundation as well. So the value of having that vision and sharing it allows for diversity in a good way. It is about ways that each contribute. Anton's the boss of our organization in the strictest terms. Okay, he's the CEO, but what's beautiful about what we do and how we function is there are times that Anton demonstrates servant leadership, and he steps back and looks at me and says, "You decide, because this is an area where you are better equipped." And that, again, is the value of that shared vision. There's a comfort level as a leader to step back and say, "Hey, this is really something you can help us grow in or get direction in." And when that happens, it's amazing because then the leader is not always responsible, and the buy-in, right now buy-in is such a problem. We have unengaged workers because they don't buy in, because we don't give them a chance to buy in.
It's coming back to the thing that I say over and over and over. 100% perfect plan with 50% buy-in is never going to beat a 50% perfect plan with 100% buy-in. The math adds up, but when synergy is created, the sum of individual parts is less than the team total because of that extra buy-in. That's what does it. It's that extra 5% from every team member. We won't get into the common mistakes today, but next week we'll talk about values, guys. We're gonna dive into values. I think it's something that needs to be clarified. I think a lot of times people mix up values, beliefs, visions, mission. So we want to really show you guys what it's all about. But it's also one of the things that we focus on. What we're going through right now is a lot of the symptoms that we see in organizations that create unsustainable organizational ecosystems. So we're going through one by one and going to break them down to hopefully help you guys understand what Human SOS is about, but ultimately be able to bring that in your organizations.
If our having to skip over part of the topic leaves you going, but wait, there is an alternative. You can contact us, reach out to us. Let us come in and help you or your organization address these topics, because that's what we do. We come in and we want to be holistic in helping you develop a humanly sustainable ecosystem. That's what we're about. That's what drives us. And we'd love to do that for you, your organization, and you give us the chance, we would be interested in starting tomorrow. So we're here, reach out. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate the engagement and involvement today. And remember, we're here every Tuesday. I don't know that, I think we have only not been on a Tuesday, and that was when we had our summit.
But I think we streamed it still. Didn't we stream it? I believe we still streamed it.
I think so, yeah.
We're
here Tuesday, 11 o'clock Eastern. Join us, please. Hey, you're getting, at a minimum, you're getting free 1 hour session with 2 coaches, and we're open to any questions, comments, and that is out there for you. So if you're not motivated by anything else, it's free to join us. So join us, get involved. We look forward to seeing you. Take care. Have an amazing week, and we will see you guys next Tuesday. Bring a friend along also. Thank you, everyone. God bless. Take care.